Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Happiness Journey with Dr. Dan podcast, where every journey is worth living. My name is Dr. Dan, and I'm your host for today's episode. I'm a bilingual neurolinguistic programming and cognitive behavior psychotherapist specializing in anger management issues, both court appointed and private, marriage counseling using the EFT method, dissociative disorders, narcissistic personality disorders, depression, anxiety, dream analysis, and also provide life, business, and retirement coaching support. I provide individual one-on-one session in both French or English and also do group settings. If you need any assistance, reach out to DMV Therapy and Coaching Services at 301-325-1550, and our website can be found at lifecoach.drdanamzallag.com. Today, I'm very excited to have for our fifth episode of season 20 a very special guest and author of Confession of Hollywood Trainer, The Journey That Changed My Life, John Petrelli. And just like every of my past episode, I will leave it up to the guests to properly introduce themselves, as no one can do a better job. John, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dan. Before I even introduce myself, let me just say, you just said an incredible mouthful, and it is unbelievable the different things that you do. And I think I got 3 or 4 of the things that you help with, at least at some point in my life. So maybe I need a phone call after this that you can help me.
Absolutely.
I'm so pleased to be here. When we had spoken in the pre-interview months ago, and you told me in regards to what your purpose is in helping people and getting information out to people that may not have it available, or maybe they don't feel comfortable calling in just yet, but they can relate to something that you're dealing with. I'm like, I'm on board. This is what I'm all about, is helping people. So thank you so much for having me. I've been a fitness trainer for over 30 years now. Working with people from the entertainment industry to professional athletes to housewives, every walk of life. Before I became a fitness trainer, I had a journey that brought me through different anger issues, things that maybe want to change my life. And Dr. Dan, I say to people now that I'm doing public speaking, is that I've been paralyzed twice in my life. I've been paralyzed once in my youth, and it was a mental paralysis where I was paralyzed in fear, I was paralyzed in anger, I was paralyzed in violence, and I had to find techniques and ways to get out of that. And I was paralyzed once physically in 2021 with a rare autoimmune disorder called Guillain-Barré Syndrome, GBS.
Mhm.
And I laid in an ICU bed in isolation for 10 days without moving anything but my eyeballs. And it gave me perspective that when we lose something in life, we have access to things that we can call upon. Like, I lost my physicality, which was my identity for 30 plus years, and I had to rely on my mentality. And that's where I got the inspiration to write that book called Confessions of a Hollywood Trainer. And I just released 2 weeks ago a new edition for teens where there's no profanity and no adult situations, because I have such a calling to help our youth, because I see myself in them. And I was like, man, if I could have had a mentor during that time, maybe I could have avoided some pitfalls. So that's a long-winded introduction to just say, I'm a normal guy that has dealt with a lot of things that other people have probably gone through. And I've just, through the grace of God, I've been able to come through it and be with you here today. And I hope that through sharing my experience, that I can help someone through a trying time, whether they want to be a doctor, a lawyer, a better husband, a better wife, an author. Because believe me, my friend, I've grown up with learning disabilities. I have dyslexia. I mean, I sit down at a keyboard today and I'll type something out, and spell check is like, we have no idea what the hell you're trying to do here.
Wow.
Come back later and give us a better clue. And I say this because if I can write a book that ends up being a #1 bestseller on Amazon, I don't say this to pound my chest to say, look at me, because I don't feel like there's anything special about me. I say this because imagine what you can do if I can do this with my limitations, with fear, with shame, with all these different things. Imagine the capabilities you have that you can tap into and your greatness.
Well, then, thank you so much, John, for being here today. And there's one thing that really interested me when we had our pre-podcast call is that, first of all, we're both authors, and we wrote something quite similar for one of my book, Glorious Maximus, The Inside Life of Personal Trainers. And you write a book about confession of you being a Hollywood trainer. I mean, we have so many similarities. And it's interesting that we finally connected somewhere in the universe with, I don't know, some quantum entanglement of some sort. But we're here today to be able to share to our listeners your story that will hopefully inspire everyone that listens to it. And also the fact that you had the Guillain-Barré syndrome, which, for what I understand, is it bacteria or is it a virus?
So they don't know where it comes from, which is crazy because I had a bacterial infection. I do jujitsu and I had someone's toenail cut my shin and I got cellulitis maybe 3 weeks beforehand. And then I had COVID. It could have been spurred from there. And it also can be spurred from a vaccine. So
Oh,
they don't know exactly where it came from. But when it hit within a week's time, I went from running and helping people and lifting weights to being in a wheelchair, getting wheeled down the ICU corridor, unable to move. And so it hit me very hard. And maybe we'll get into this, but in the past, this would have been a perfect place, a perfect opportunity for 20-year-old John Petrelli, 18-year-old John Petrelli to go, why is this happening to me? Find anger, to find fear. And instead, I asked myself a question in my most trying time. And I said, how can I possibly help people with this? What can I do that's positive? And for me, it came out to write something. But for somebody else, I just want them to know it's in our most trying times. If I look back through my history, and I've definitely had some, that there is some beauty that can be created there. There is an opportunity that we may not be able to see because we're so focused on the tragedy, the pain, the fear. So sometimes I learned through that experience to take a step back. For me, my faith is huge. My faith has been strengthened through this. When I was in an ICU bed and there was no nurse that should have been present, and I'm soiling myself there, and there's no one there at 3 o'clock in the morning, it taught me, when I lost my dignity like that, I learned new humility, and I learned to call upon these things and go, man, I have to go within myself to find something positive to come of this. So
but do you
I
feel that,
totally
yeah.
go ahead.
But do you feel that throughout your years prior, when you were you had great reputation in training people in Hollywood and all, did your ego was affected by this whole process and you felt basically unbeatable, you felt immortal, and that all this brought some sort of humility and some sort of humbleness that because of all this, it kind of like intersected with this physical ailment that you had. What do you say about that?
I don't know how you know that about me, but you know that about me. That's crazy. I have had so many life and death experiences. One that is really stands out. I got tossed overboard in a boat in Alaska by myself at 11 o'clock at night.
Oh, whoa.
And by a freak of nature, I'm alive. Okay. I can tell you the story or not. It depends on if you want to hear it or not.
Yeah, yeah, well, I mean, being thrown overboard in Alaska with hypothermia, please tell me more about that.
So I go on a fishing trip and I'm an absolute fishing nut. In fact, if I'm into something, I'm in 110% or I don't do it. So we fish all day long. I have my buddies with me. We have this big 25-foot boat. And after like 12 hours of fishing, everybody that is of sane mind wants to go to shore and eat. And at that part of the year in Alaska, it's light out like 20 hours a day. And I know in a couple of days, I got to go back to the grind. I got to go back to work. And I'm like, you guys can sit on shore and eat. I'm going to take this little skiff and I'm going to go back out fishing. So against their protests, right? I rush out there. I forget to take a ship to shore, which is the only communication because a cell phone doesn't work. I have waders on, which is a horrible thing because if you fall overboard, your waders will flood. Thank God I put a life vest on. And so I'm heading out and I pass the breaker wall where it kind of secures the bay from the storms and all that. And it immediately starts getting super rough out there and the waves are crashing. Now, I start feeling a pit in my stomach of fear and I should probably turn back.
Mhm.
But I have this relationship with fear in my life where we have a fight or flight mentality. And at early point in my life through circumstances, I felt more comfortable going into the fight as opposed to the flight. It gave me relief of the fear and anxiety of the fear. And it just was like a release for me. So stupidly, I pursue ahead and I'm crashing through these waves with a 12-foot aluminum boat and a hand tiller.
Wow.
And in my head, it goes, man, if you turn the tiller arm too much, the waves are going to come over the side. So a normal person in me now today at 52 years old would slow the engine down and everything, but I had to find out what would happen. And so with the throttle floored, I turn the tiller arm as fast, as hard as I can, and I'm shot out of there like a rocket.
Oh, geez.
In the Alaskan Ocean at 11 o'clock at night by myself.
Pitch dark.
It's almost dark. There's maybe a half hour of light left.
Okay.
And now the boat takes off. And I'm dealt with the reality of, holy shnikes, I was just on shore 20 minutes ago. I can't even see shore. There's no boats around. How did I get in this predicament? And so all of a sudden, as I'm gasping, spitting up salt water, I'm gasping for air. I realize my waders are on, they're flooding with water. And now I'm almost like neutrally buoyant instead of being buoyant because I have a life vest and waders on. I hear something and I'm trying to picture what's going on. I'm trying to put it together because the waves are above my head. And all of a sudden I realize it is the engine of my boat. And I had turned the tiller arm so hard that it is doing a 360 and it's coming right for my head.
Whoa.
And now the boat is coming right at my head. And I have literally seconds to push myself underneath the water. And I'm lucky that the waders are on because they're allowing me to go under. The hull misses my head. And I see the prop wash inches from my nose of the propeller.
My God.
And the boat goes by. So now I got to pedal and kick in the other direction. I get to the surface. I don't even know how I thought of this, but I have my knife in the sheath. I pull it off and I cut one of my hip waders off and it falls to the ground. And now I'm looking at the boat doing a circle. And ridiculously in my mind, I'm thinking, thank God the boat's doing a circle because I would feel so bad if I lost
Oh, yeah, for sure.
the camp's boat in addition to being dead because it would have went off to sea and I'm out in the middle of the ocean. So I realize I have to grab the gunny well of this boat for me to have any chance
Survival, yeah.
surviving. So the boat's making another pass. I time it as best I can. I go to reach up and grab this gunny well. My fingers get on there and my body goes parallel to the ocean. My foot that now has no boot on it anymore is almost in the propellers with just a sock on it. I'm holding on for everything I have and I cannot hang on because the cold water has numbed my damn fingertips so much.
Oh, Lord.
So I cut the other wader off and now I just got the hip wader and all I have is my life vest on. And here it is, maybe my last chance. I'm timing this thing where if I get hit in the head by the boat, it's over. I'm out to sea, I'm fish food. And it comes by and I reach for everything I have, every ounce of energy I've had in my life, and I grab that gunny well and the boat tows me and I pull myself up over the gunny well and I pull the kill switch, killing the engine. And I fall into the bottom of this aluminum boat. And every sense I ever had in my life has been heightened. My hearing, my vision. I'm laying there with adrenaline pouring through my body, going, what the hell? I just had a brand new son that was born. I have a family that I have to return to. What am I doing? And for me, it's a metaphor, but it's so true. It's like that ocean water, the freezing Alaskan water cleansed me of this torment I had and relationship I had with fear for 20 years of my life. And I came out of that ocean different and I had a truce with fear. And I said, I'm no longer going to deal with it in that capacity where I go headstrong in and I just charge at it. I need to take a step back and evaluate the situation. But the crazy thing that has happened, Dr. Dan, to go back to your question, is had I had a relationship where I feel like I'm invincible, this is where the mind can play crazy things because I've escaped having guns pulled on me twice. I've had car accidents. I've had crazy things happen. I get out of the Alaskan water in my mind, although I have this in control now, goes, if you can escape this, what else are you possibly, can you escape? And you can get into this vicious cycle of, man, I'm invincible.
Yes.
And in 2021, when I was paralyzed, I got humbled beyond belief
Mhm.
and was thankful that I surrounded myself with people that can support me. And it's bigger than John Petrelli. It is about my community of people. It is about my resources. It is about my faith that really have put me where I am today. And I'm not invincible, even though sometimes I like to think I am. And I have to be considerate and compassionate to myself and of other people. I've never told that story before, by the way, but you said something that sparked that.
And I knew, I mean, I did some a little bit of digging about your life, etc. And the reason why is because yes, I wasn't sure if the boat incident was pre-Guillain-Barré or post. I wasn't sure about that because obviously there's no date with this. But this is quite interesting about how so after the boat incident and then the physical that you dealt with Guillain-Barré, did you say to yourself, okay, what other thing life has to throw at me? Kind of thing. I mean, did you say, okay, well, if I was able to survive all this, I am really invincible at this point?
So what my mentality shifted and said, I was able to survive all of that, and I'm blessed and I'm here for a reason. And we only have one go through. And it is very important for me to maximize the amount of people I help and serve before we all only have one go through. And before my time is up, I will be a happy man if I look back and my boys, my family, people I've touched have been better because of knowledge I've departed, care I've given, or helped in some manner. So
Mhm.
I've shifted it from escaping so many things and what else can I do to who can I serve, who can I help? And in the limited, I'm 52 years old now, and whatever time I have left, I want to just really do it to my best of my ability.
But that's the reason why you and I, we have an incredible connection because for me, I focus a lot on the mental aspect of helping people. You did the physical, even though for many, many years, being a certified trainer from the National Academy of Sports Medicine, I was able to help people go through the healing. I mean, the physical healing when it comes to either eating disorders, it being, morbid obesity, whatever it is. And so I can understand your passion in making someone go through the chain because obviously you can guide them on what kind of exercise to do to avoid injuries, but you're not there 24/7 to hold their hands and to be able to tell them, you're not allowed to eat this, be careful with this. So, and even with this, no one will want you to be around them 24/7. But yeah, so you depend on them, and there's a lot of accountability that has to do with it. And as well, you provide them with information that they would not know otherwise. And this is what's really valuable. And this is the reason why you were brought. This is your mission. This is your purpose, John.
It is. And, to touch off or to jump off of what you said, Dr. Dan, what you do is incredible in regards to the mentality, because I believe our mentality has to shift in order to really change our physicality. It all starts from there. The body is controlled really in a negative way, a positive way, whatever way you want to direct it from your mentality. And I really understand this now, having lost my physicality. It's so important. Mental health is such an issue today for everybody, but I feel especially for our young adults that have to deal with social media and all the pressures we never had. I was a screw up enough on my own. If I had this thing,
Yes,
I would have been it would have been over for me. And so I have such empathy for them of what they have to deal with in mental health space that, man, I applaud you in any way I can be of service to helping in any capacity with what you do. You can always call on me for that.
absolutely. And the interesting thing, and I was going to ask you another question if we have to dig in back into your childhood. For me, one reason that brought me into fitness is because I was myself obese.
Mm.
And that kind of like triggered my mind. But also I deal with hypothyroidism, which didn't help me with the losing weight. I was gaining even though I was eating nothing. So all this kind of like, you know what? I have two choices. Either I change my life because this is the only person that can do that. And I start going into fitness, into bodybuilding. And then this is the path that I took. And then that in itself brought me to learn more about kinesiology, learn more about muscle building, etc. Because I put into myself. So I said, you know what? I can preach it and teach it. So might as well do the same for other people. And from 1992 till now, I've been fitness training people.
Wow. I
Yes.
love that. So that's about the same year. I know you started 1 year before I did because I graduated my 2-year degree at 92 and then I started training about 93, 94. So my friend, you are a legend being in it that long. I love that.
Oh my God, yes. I mean, I love this is, I wrote books about nutrition. I wrote books that I send you one as well. So I think
Which
that
is funny. If you guys haven't read that, you need to read that.
yes,
And there's so much truth in there that I hadn't pieced together about the different personality types and everything.
absolutely gym etiquette and everything.
Yeah.
For me, it was kind of like it was so much of the truth. So it was not fictional. It was very non-fiction because this is what's happening in every single fitness facility across the planet. Now, of course,
Yes.
it has to do a lot with the culture because we may not see fitness trainers acting the same in India or Europe or whatever it is. But here in the US, yeah, we have the same mentality. It's incredible.
Yeah. And your starting point of being heavier was your inspiration to change, which is amazing. You took your destiny into your own hands.
Right.
I was on the reverse where as a freshman in high school, I was 4'11", and I saw all these kids had matured and gone through puberty. And I'm running around the hallways of the high school like a Smurf. And I needed to find some way to kind of catch up, and I couldn't make myself grow, which happened. And then I grew sophomore to junior year. I went from 4'11" to 5'9" in 1 year. So I had scoliosis, I had back pain, growing pains, and now I'm skinny as a rail. And
Oh,
so I'm like, I had to find my way into the weight room for that. And in addition, I was a little kid with a big mouth, and my mouth would get me in trouble all the time. So I'd be lifted to go, I gotta fix a lot of these things.
but did you do any specific sport in high school, John? Or were you just jumping directly into muscle building and that was your passion?
So that's a great question. So pre-high school, I played basketball, soccer, baseball. I was okay at like baseball and basketball. I was absolutely excellent at soccer. I led the league in scoring. I played on a high school team in 8th grade. We won the championship. But because my self-confidence and self-esteem was so low, when I got to high school, I saw that football had cheerleaders, they had jerseys with their name on the back. They had a crowd and audience that attended. No one came to see soccer. It didn't matter if I was a starring scorer. So I went to go play football at 4'11", and I was a rag doll. I was no good. And then I came back junior year to play soccer. And lo and behold, I hadn't played for a couple years and everybody had caught up to me and gotten better. And so once again, my ego was crushed. So it was kind of my start of getting into the martial arts. Also, I started doing martial arts. I had dealt with bullying and stuff, and I just always had this need to want to be able to protect myself and protect other people.
I see. And now, when you started writing the book, the confession book, what really brought you to sit down, especially dealing with dyslexia? Like even like Tom Cruise has the same issue, but hey, he's one of the best paid actor in this planet. So what really brought you to wanting to sit down and write, knowing that you have also this challenge to be able to deal with?
Great question. So prior to being paralyzed, I was on tour with one of the most popular stand-up comics for 2 years in the country. A dear friend of mine, his name is, I'm going to name drop, his name is Sebastian Maniscalco.
You know, Sebastian, he's my favorite comedian of all time.
He's a dear friend of mine. He's been my client for 15 years more. I introduced him to his wife. They were
Oh,
both clients of mine.
right?
So I was blessed. He asked me to go on tour, and we went on tour for 2 years, and I was flying 100 plus flights, 120 flights a year. So while I was on the plane, I didn't want to just waste time watching movies. So I started just journaling things in my life and never knew what context I would use them in. And so when I was paralyzed, I thought about that because I was listening to, first off, things that got me through being paralyzed by myself is I wanted to have positive vibrations. So I filled my room with reggae music. That was for me that brought my mentality to a great place. I did meditation and prayer. And then my wife brought me organic pureed food every day because I wasn't going to eat fried chicken fingers, and I couldn't swallow any whole food because I had to be on a puree diet. So I kept those 3 things in there. And while I was listening to an audiobook, I got the inspiration to go, man, I love this book. It's helping me right now. What if I did something through all these adventures I've had in my life and what people may deem as failures in my life? And maybe I can compile them in some way to help people.
Mhm.
And so the actual book I was listening to,
Yes.
I reached out to that person and their co-author and editor. And I said, I love your book. It's amazing. Would you ever think of working with me? Not knowing how to put a book together and anything. And the guy who ends up being my co-author, he was my editor at first, an amazing guy named Scott Burr. I reach out to him and he's like, dude, listen, I love that you like the book, but I just got done doing this book. And my girlfriend says, if I do another book anytime soon, she's going to kick me out. But he was nice enough to leave me a little window. He said, I'll tell you what, why don't you send me an email of what you have
Okay.
and I'll take a look at it. And so I sent him an email of this pretty crude stuff I'd written, and he got back to me immediately. And he said, send me a little bit more. And I sent him more. And then he called me and he goes, listen, I promised her I wouldn't do this. I love your story. I would love to go on this journey with you. This is what it would look like. And he only started off as my editor. And we worked so closely together. And he asked me, he goes, would you feel comfortable giving me co-author? And I'm like, absolutely, man. And so we did this book together. And so just as it is crazy that we've connected and we have so many things in common, it is absolutely, I have a better chance of hitting the lotto of then calling someone and going, hey, would you be interested in doing a book with me and having this? But if you put in the time, you put in the effort, you allow yourself to fail, you're gracious, you're consistent. I mean, I had to go from a wheelchair to the keyboard. I had to go from a walker to the keyboard and do what I could. And when I could only move 2 fingers, I didn't complain about it. I go, at least I can move 2 fingers.
Mhm.
And I'm going to use them until I can move 3. I
Yes.
didn't focus on what I didn't have. I focused on what I did have. And call it a miracle, call it a 1 in a million, call it whatever. But I was able to put that together that seemed like such a whimsical dream.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, before we conclude the podcast, John, can you tell our listeners where can they find your book? Is it like Amazon? Is it like your specific website? And how was the process?
Fantastic. By the way, our time has flown, and I
I know.
know I talked a lot. Um,
I love
they
it.
can find my book on Amazon, on Audible. I really want to, it's called Confessions of a Hollywood Trainer and then Confessions of a Hollywood Trainer Teen Edition. I recently put out a challenge and 3 people took me up on it instantly. I'm getting into space of public speaking. I have such a passion for juvenile groups, church, whatever, your high school, whatever it is, the young group. If anybody in their organization commits to buying 100 books, I will come out for free and speak on my own expense. I'll fly out there. I'll put myself up in a hotel room. I'll speak for free because I know and you'll get the books. I feel like it's such a useful tool. And I just want to help as many people as possible. If you just want the book, it's on Amazon, it's on my website, all that stuff. And I just want to help as many people as I have with this gift I've been given of being able to do this in a second edition of my life.
Well, John, I mean, your story is incredible, but that's all the time that we have for today's podcast. I really appreciate you taking the time of your busy schedule to join us. And thank you again for participating and inspiring our many listeners with your incredible story. We hope that you've all enjoyed today's episode. I'm also very excited about the many upcoming guests that we have scheduled for season 20 of the Happiness Journey podcast, filled with inspirational stories just like the one that you listened today. Now, here are some concluding words of wisdom. Embrace change as the sculptor of your destiny. Be open to the unknown, for with it lies the canvas of new possibility. Fear not the winds of change. Let them guide you to uncharted horizon where growth and transformation await. In openness, discover the beauty of adapting, evolving, and crafting a life painted with the hues of courage and resilience. My name is Dr. Dan Amzallag, and you may all keep pursuing your amazing journey in life.